Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of my fellow fellows at the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, or IPBES, and the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment, or ATREE, I welcome all of you to our webinar, The IPBES Impact, Connecting Science, Nature, and Youth Action. I am Asmita Sengupta, and I am a fellow at ATREE. I am also an IPBES fellow, having been associated with the Transformative Change Assessment. I'm joined by quite a few of my IPBES colleagues today. First off, Dr. Vinod Mathur, who was the chairperson of the National Biodiversity Authority, Government of India. He also served as the Regional Vice Chair, Asia Pacific on the IPBES Bureau. Dr. Murli Krishna Chatakonda, who is currently a faculty at Amity University, Noida, and who was associated with the Sustainable Use of Wild Species Assessment. Dr. Pradeep Kumar Dubey, who is currently a researcher at the International Rice Research Institute, South Asia Regional Center, Varanasi, and who was associated with the Nexus Assessment. Dr. Ranjini Murli, who is a faculty at the Humboldt Universität zu Berlin, who was associated with the Values Assessment. And Sakshi Rana, who is currently a doctoral research scholar at the Wildlife Institute of India. And she is, in fact, a current fellow who is associated with the Scenarios and Modeling Task Force. Over and above all, I'm very happy to have with us Ms. Anita Arjundas, who is the Executive Director at ATREE, and thanks to whose kindness and generosity, we are being able to hold this webinar here today. Anita, the floor is yours. Please, I would like you to get us officially started off.
Thank you, Asmita. And ATREE is delighted to host today's webinar on the impact of the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. IPBES, as you are aware, was established in 2012 as an independent body to strengthen science policy interfaces on biodiversity and ecosystem services for the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity that is critical for the healthy functioning of ecosystems and also for the long-term well-being of humankind. Today, IPBES has about 150 member states with a large number of organizations participating in the formal process as observers, including ATREE. In addition, it has thousands of individual stakeholders, ranging from scientific experts to representatives of academic and research institutions, local communities, the private sector, who contribute to and benefit from IPBES work covering assessments, policy support, knowledge and capacity building, and communications and outreach. Over the years, ATREE's researchers have participated in multiple such assessments as coordinating lead authors, and fellows. These independent peer-reviewed assessments of knowledge on biodiversity and ecosystem services are focused on providing a comprehensive understanding of the issues and challenges on different thematic areas. Some of the assessments that ATREE fellows have participated in includes the Values Assessment in 2018, where Sharad Lele was a lead author, the Sustainable Use of Wild Species Assessment in 2022, where Balachandra Ganeshan was a coordinating lead author, the Invasive Alien Species Assessment in 2023, we had Ankila Hirmat as a lead author, and the most recent Transformative Change Assessment in 2024, where Asmita Sengupta was a fellow. ATREE is an institution that is engaged in interdisciplinary research and striving to bridge the science policy gap, finds these assessments and frameworks very useful resources and encourages both our students and fellows to use them, as also to actively participate in the process, should there be opportunities, as was evidenced in our involvement from 2018 onwards across different assessments. Today's webinar is one such effort to bring students, researchers, practitioners, and policy actors together to share insights from some of the recent assessments. We're glad to have Dr. Vinod Mathur in our midst today, and I'm sure the next 90 minutes will be an engaging session. Thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Anita. So now that you know all of us, I think it's only fair that we get to know you a bit as well. So for that, I would like to invite my fellow Murli, to take us through a short interactive session.
Thanks, Ashmita. So before going to the presentation, I just wanted to say one word. So there is a difference between IPCC and IPBES for those people who are here new, because IPCC mostly deals with the climate change aspect and IPBES deals with the biodiversity aspect. So I just wanted to make this single statement before I proceed to the interactive session. So I'll be presenting a small presentation in which each of the slides will have a QR code. We wanted to know our audience better, so we are just using this small short interactive session. So I'll be sharing my screen and I'll be stopping or pausing at each of the slides for 10 seconds. Please use the QR code from your phone in order to scan it, and you can actually participate in the interactive session. So I'll just move on to the first slide. So the first question deals with, in one word, what does nature means to you? So you can use the QR code and view the responses. You can scan the QR code. So you can just give your own response on what it means. So wonderful. So we have very good. I am nature, sustainability, inspiration, everything. Beauty. I'm so happy that the audience are so quick. They are quite responsive. They are very active. Home, life, sustainability. Okay, so let me move on to the second question. Yeah, you can scan this slide, this QR code, and you can provide your own responses. I see a lot of people from ATREE. Freelancers. From CE, from University of Amsterdam, independent researchers. Okay. Wonderful. So we got a lot of responses, especially from Keystone, ATREE, a lot of independent researchers. Okay, let me move on to the next slide. So what is your favorite animal, bird, tree, or flower? So you can put your responses using the QR code. Neem, quite an interesting tree, which has a lot of medicinal benefits, butters, moths, bougainvillea, okay, peacocks, right, the robins, great white sharks, giraffe, leopard, a lot of carnivores, reptiles, birds. Wonderful. So let me move on to the next slide. So what according to you is the greatest threat to biodiversity in India? So using the QR code again, you can put your responses. Oh, it's humans. Population, capitalism, okay, governance, lack of awareness, deforestation, habitat destruction, policies, politics, political loopholes, greed, invasive alien species, government, markets, capitalism and nexus. Wonderful. So let me move on to the next slide. Do you think nature and biodiversity conservation is getting enough focus in India? No. Okay. Maybe not sure. We see some of them, yes. So majority of the respondents are putting to no. So the word no dominates, especially in the Indian scenario when it comes to biodiversity and conservation. Not getting enough focus as per the respondents. Let me move on to the next question. So you can use any of the emojis. When you scan the code, you'll be getting an option just below the image. You have 3 to 4 emojis. You can use any of the emojis. What makes you feel when you see this image? Oh, we are getting a lot of likes. A lot of thoughts. Let me move on to the next slide. So use an emoji to describe how this image makes you feel. So as soon as I clicked on to the next slide, majority of them are giving the thumbs down. It's obvious we don't like such sites specifically. Yes. Okay. Thanks everyone for providing your responses. Okay, I'll stop it here and I'll give the stage to Dr. V.V. Mathur. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. See, I would begin by thanking ATREE for taking the responsibility of organizing this webinar. It was only a few months back when Dr. Bawa visited Dehradun. I raised this point that why don't ATREE takes the lead? And he said yes. And then immediately we worked with Asmita to put this webinar together. So thank you, ATREE, for putting it together. And I would say that this is perhaps for the first time that we are discussing IPBES in this manner. And I hope that the outcome of this webinar are going to help us in having more activities under the banner of IPBES, taking lead by ATREE. Next one, please. So see, interestingly, the Mentimeter results were very interesting. A large number of people who in 2025 are saying that we are not doing enough for nature and biodiversity. And this question is there, which was put 25 years back when we got the Millennium Assessment Report, and it was felt that the biodiversity and services are declining. And the IPCC report was saying that, the UNEP Outlook report said that. And then everybody said that we need to have an international entity which can deal with the science policy interface. And as was just informed, the IPCC is the bigger cousin, but fortunately, many people know IPCC much better than what they will know IPBES. So that is our attempt here to reach out to our biodiversity community to make them more aware that biodiversity and ecosystem services are as important as anything else. What is IPBES? So basically, it is an interface between scientific and policy makers, because we feel that there is a lot of gap between what the scientists do and what the policymakers need. And that is where this interface words comes in, that we need to promote it. We need to make together that scientific findings are converted into policy formulation. And that is what is IPBES mandate to move ahead. And obviously there are gaps and there are some major contributions which are required. Next one, please. See, the goal of IPBES is very simple, to make people aware that there is a thing called science policy interface. If we want the connect between biodiversity, climate, land degradation, there must be an interface, which is what the IPBES provides. And this particular goal was set up, as you can see, way back in 2012 in Panama. The first IPBES meeting took place over there, and India was one of the key players over there in Panama. And we said that IPBES is important, IPBES is needed, and that is how this organization came into being. It is right now headquartered in Bonn in Germany. Next one, please. The operating principles are very important for any organization. And obviously, the first and important is collaborate with the existing initiatives. While new initiatives are needed, but there are quite a few in the world which other organizations are doing. But at the same time, when you provide an advice, it should be scientifically independent. You cannot be under pressure from anyone, whether it is a corporate or a pharmaceutical giant talking to tell us about pollinators. Use very clear and transparent and credible processes. And obviously, the interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approaches are very, very important. Next one, please. And finally, integrate capacity building. We will be dealing more about it in this webinar today. Coming to functions, obviously, the first step is generation of knowledge. And that is what IPBES does. That is what IPBES encourages. It does timely assessments, and it supports policy formulation processes. And here again, the word capacity building comes in, because that happens to be a very important function. and all the fellows and myself who are here are because of the capacity building function of IPBES. Next one, please. For a very long time, I chaired the task force on capacity building. We wanted to encourage the youth. But coming back to IPBES main activities on biodiversity assessments, it guides, it develops, it endorses assessments at the global level, at the regional level, and at the sub-regional level. And then not only these global assessments are there are thematic assessments which are very, very relevant. It provides technical support and capacity, and it creates some tools for assessment. As scientists, we know that we need these tools, and where on earth can we get these tools? And that is where IPBES comes and helps, that it provides you a suite of tools which can be used. Next one, please. And obviously, the reports that are produced by IPBES, they are disseminated worldwide. In the area of policy support, there are tools and methodologies, because as I said, IPBES cannot dictate policy. The policy formulation is the domain or is the prerogative of the sovereign governments. But what IPBES can do, it can provide tools and methodologies. It can support policy formulation. It can talk of promotion of tools which are needed for communication and capacity building. Next one, please. And finally, what it does, it synthesizes knowledge. And that is what the role comes in. And I was mentioning about capacity building role. So what IPBES does, it does an assessment of the capacity needs by regions, by countries, and then it tries to bring in resources. So it's a kind of a matchmaking process, very much similar, if I can say so, like the Indian marriage. You have requirements from the groom side and you have requirements from the bride side, and somebody then brings them together. So that's what IPBES does when it comes to capacity building. It has a very elaborate fellowship program. And in this webinar, we have a special session. My colleagues will be talking about who have themselves been fellows of IPBES and what has been a game-changing experience of them. And then series of dialogues and workshops are organized on that. Next one, please. The networking role of IPBES is very important. It connects organizations and entities together. In terms of knowledge generation, we all know about the communication gaps. Those gaps, the knowledge may be existing, but it is not available or not readily available. IPBES also convenes research and commitments and makes, as you can see, we are all familiar with scientific research, but then conducting policy relevant research is also very, very important. And that is where the role in India of organizations like ATREE come in, that they are willing and they are doing policy relevant research on that and being helped through peer learning processes on that. Next one, please. Communication outreach are very, very important to the activities of IPBES. And importantly, who are the stakeholders? As you can see, top of the line are governments. As many as 146, or last week, I should say 147 countries are part of IPBES, scientific community, civil society organization. The donors are part of IPBES, and very important, the youth. A majority of the audience, I understand, are youth here. They are a major stakeholders of IPBES, and that is why we have taken steps to get you here. And we want that you carry back some important messages and take away points of what is your role could be. Next one, please. IPBES has very close connections with the Convention on Biological Diversity. Everybody knows what CBT does, headquartered in Montreal. It has a major role. And right now, many of us are involved in implementing what is called as the Global Monitoring Framework, or GBF, or Global Biodiversity Framework. Then the Convention on Wetlands, or the Ramsar Convention, is very, very important. And those who deal with animals, they know the CITES Convention. So these three conventions are form of part and integral part of what IPBES does. Next one, please. How IPBES is structured? As I said, at the top level is the plenary. Plenary is the highest decision-making body, and all countries which are part of IPBES, as I said, 146, actually 147, are part of the IPBES plenary. And then there are the governing board of or the bureau of IPBES, very much like what the ATREE has as board. So there are some 10 members, 2 from each region in the world. And then this is a very, very important group of 25 scientists, 5 from each region. These 25 scientists are the ones who take the scientific work of IPBES forward. I was fortunate that for 9 years, I worked as a MAP member and as a bureau member that allowed me to gain insight and contribute to what India is currently doing and what India needs to do. So this is the structure of IPBES. Next one, please. Assessments, as I said, are the key outputs from the IPBES system. There are global assessments, there are regional assessments. I want to draw your attention to our own region, the Asia Pacific region, where sometimes back a large number of Indian scientists, 22 to be precise, were part of this Asia Pacific assessment as authors and lead authors and review authors over there. And there was a management committee to deal with that. And a large number of people from India have contributed to this. Next one, please. Apart from these global and regional assessments, these are thematic assessments. So assessment on pollinators, pollination and food security, on land degradation, invasive species. So at any given point of time, there will be some 2 to 3 assessments which IPBES is following. They want to recruit, they want to engage fellows over there. You will know in a while that what these fellows have been doing and how they can contribute. And these are some of the important thematic assessments which IPBES does. Next one, please. You can now see, I would request you to go to the IPBES website. See all these reports which you see produced by hundreds and thousands of scientists, bringing in a very nice synthesis on all aspects of biodiversity and ecosystem conservation are now available, and they make a very important scientific material. All of those who are engaging in your PhD research or want to move forward, want to come through that, or doing their master's, this is a very, very fine scientific material readily available on the IPBES website. Next one, please. So finally, this is my last slide. What can you do for IPBES? You heard me, Anita and Asmita, talking about it. If you are a student, if you are a researcher, I would urge you, you must aspire to become a fellow. That will be the first step in your career progression in science, that you become an IPBES fellow. If you are a little more experienced, you can then think of becoming an author. It could be a lead author, it could be a coordinating lead author. If you are more experienced, you can review the IPBES reports. But these are some of the opportunities which I want to put across to you. You can think that whether you would be fine to start as a fellow, move into a lead author, and then if you're a practitioner, then what IPBES is expecting, that countries are going to convert the IPBES reports into action. And I would like to draw your attention to one particular set of documents. These are called Summary for Policymakers, a 25-page report, which has all the operative points of an assessment. So as young scientists, we are supposed to read every bit of the report. But for senior policymakers, decision makers, please look at this 25 pages Summary for Policymakers on every aspect of assessment which IPBES has done. And finally, I would urge you to be part of IPBES family, follow the IPBES website, and that will give you a huge amount of material to make upon. So thank you very much for listening to me and to ATREE for providing this opportunity. And I will now hand over to Ranjini to take this webinar forward. Thank you once again.
Thanks, Dr. Mathur. So today, right now, I'm going to, so Dr. Mathur gave a really nice overview of IPBES and what it does. What I'm going to now talk about is the kind of impact that IPBES has had, right? Or the kind of different sections of society that have used IPBES assessments. Some of these statements that are on the slides, more than 1 million species are at a risk of extinction, 75% of territorial environments and 66% of marine environments are severely altered by human actions. Some of these statements you've probably come across at different times, maybe in different newspaper articles. Maybe these are also statements that you've used in your introductions when we're writing papers, because these are nice motherhood statements that support a lot of our claims. And all of these statements come from different IPBES assessments. And they get widely covered both in popular media as well as research articles. Next slide. And a goal of IPBES is, of course, these findings get used in policy, right? And at different levels of policy, from national to maybe more local. So some examples of how IPBES assessments have been used by policymakers. For example, in Nigeria, Nigerian policymakers used findings from the pollinators assessment to develop a national strategy for endangered pollinators in Nigeria, right? Then to a little bit more local level, Stratford-upon-Avon, which is, you might have heard of it as Shakespeare's birth town. It's a little town in the UK, and they declared an ecological emergency based on the sustainable use assessment, right? Based on findings surrounding that. And the last example is from the EU Nature Restoration Law that was passed last year. And it's one of the first laws that are continent-wide, and it's legally binding, that recognizes restoration targets for, the whole of the EU. And they had sightings from the IPBES global assessment. So this is in some ways that it's been used in policy. Next slide, please. And it's not just policymakers, right? A lot of civil society organizations as well use these findings. For example, in our very own Mumbai, there's this group called the Ministry of Mumbai's Magic, and they used IPBES findings from the global assessment to launch a campaign that they call Biodiversity by the Bay. Traffic, which is an NGO that works on wildlife trade, they launched a campaign called Kind Dining in Thailand to change values around wild meat consumption. And this campaign was based on findings from the IPBES values assessment, right? And sometimes these findings are also used by slightly maybe unusual stakeholders. For example, in Germany, German hunters challenged potential restrictions that the government was bringing up on hunting around raccoons. So they were using findings from like the invasive species assessment to try to challenge this in court. Next slide, please. And there's also some kind of cultural impact, and this got a lot of us very excited at IPBES, where IPBES, the pandemics report, got featured in on John Oliver, which is like, it's a late night show on US television, but it also like shows on YouTube, and the YouTube clip had more than 9.5 million views, where he discusses some findings from the IPBES pandemic report as well. So it's also made it to cultural media. Last slide, please. And it's also been used to inspire artists and art installations in different parts of the world. So here I can give you two examples. One is from an immersive art exhibition in London, where they use jellyfish as a focal species to, get the emotional responses from people and try to activate action for biodiversity change. The second picture that we have of all these solar lanterns, that was an installation that was done in the Philippines, and it actually was the largest solar installation lantern exhibition, and it made it to the Guinness Book of World Records. And after this, they even like distributed these solar lanterns to houses in need. So both these exhibitions were using art as a way to spread awareness, but also inspire action for biodiversity conservation. So these are just some examples of the impact that IPBES assessments have had, and different sections of society that have used the findings of these assessments. Yeah, now over to you, Asmita.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ranjini. So the last IPBES plenary, the most recent IPBES plenary happened in Windhoek, Namibia, and that too, I mean, it is recent because it happened in December 2024. And 2 assessments got approved in the plenary over there, one of which happened to be the assessment report on the underlying causes of biodiversity loss and the determinants of transformative change and options for achieving the 2050 vision for biodiversity, also known as the transformative change assessment. So if we go back to the global assessment that Ranjini alluded to, this is where the global assessment left us. We basically figured out that nature was declining at rates and scales that were unprecedented across terrestrial, freshwater, and marine ecosystems across the globe. And it became quite evident that just addressing the direct drivers, such as habitat change or overexploitation or climate change, pollution, invasive alien species, would not really be enough for halting this biodiversity loss, or for that matter, curbing biodiversity loss. But what it would require is to take a look at the indirect drivers and bring about change there. And for that, what would be essential is transformative change. So transformative change is a fundamental system-wide reorganization across technological, economic, and social factors, including paradigms, goals, and values. And this point was taken up at a subsequent IPBES plenary, and there several experts with inputs from governments actually drew up the scoping report for the transformative change assessment. And that is what brought all of us 101 experts, not even counting the more than 200 contributing authors to this particular assessment. Amongst us, we represented 42 countries, and we came from different disciplines. Many of us were interdisciplinary scholars, and some of us were also practitioners. Now, I should tell you at this point that assessments at IPBES are not really systematic literature reviews, but rather these are these rich synthesis of information out there. So we ended up looking at 7,000 references, and actually we looked at much more, but I suppose we synthesized this information. And then we also looked at 400 case studies, which kind of exemplified what transformative change might look like in reality. And how an assessment works is, over the 3 years, we are supposed to produce from a 0th order draft to a 3rd order draft. And each of these drafts are then reviewed by IPBES experts, external reviewers, and governments. And during our journey from having produced the 0th order draft to the 3rd order draft, we ended up addressing as many as 10,000 comments. So what are our key takeaways? So the first and foremost takeaway is that deliberate transformative change for a just and sustainable world shifts views, structures, and practices in ways that address the underlying causes of biodiversity loss and nature's decline. Perhaps more importantly, we found that such views, structures, and practices that are aligned with generating a just and sustainable world are not really rare. In fact, they are fairly common amongst the indigenous peoples and local communities across the globe, and those are the ones which need to be recognized and strengthened. If I'm to connect it with the global assessment findings, we found that yes, there are direct drivers of biodiversity loss, which are underlain by these indirect drivers. But to bring about transformative change, what we really need to look at are these underlying causes, or these deep-rooted social, cultural, economic patterns that really block transformative change. And those were disconnection from and domination over nature and people. And I mean domination over nature by people, also domination of certain people over certain other sects of people, concentration of power and wealth, and the prioritization of short-term individual and material gains. So what would transformative change really entail? It would mean bringing about changes in views, structures, and practices, yes, but first of all, breaking those patterns, and also being guided by the principles of transformative change, which we recognized as equity and justice, pluralism and inclusion, respectful and reciprocal human-nature relationships, and adaptive learning and action. It is exactly as difficult as it sounds, and it does not help that we also recognize these 5 overarching challenges that block or impede transformative change, which are persistent relations of domination, again, over nature and people, particularly those that emerged and were propagated in colonial eras and which happen to continue even characterize our unfair world. Inadequate policies and unfit institutions that do not really look at socially just biodiversity conservation, unsustainable consumption and production patterns that are the orders of the day, and to some extent, limited access to clean technologies and uncoordinated knowledge and innovation systems. But we also had a bit of hope because we also found evidence of how both small-scale and large-scale changes can contribute to transformative change. In fact, upon analyzing the 400 case studies that I was talking about, we actually saw that positive outcomes were evidence for a diverse set of socioeconomic and environmental indicators in a decade or even less. Based on our literature studies, we also finally recognized 5 complementary strategies that can bring about transformative change. Very, very broadly speaking, the first one is conservation of places of high value to nature and people, where and when the rights of indigenous peoples and local communities are recognized. The second strategy would be to bring about changes in views, structures, and practices in sectors that heavily contribute to biodiversity loss, which include agriculture and livestock, fisheries, forestry, infrastructure, mining, and fossil fuel sectors. The third strategy would be to go beyond the GDP-centric mindset, but to rather transforming dominant economic and financial paradigms so that they prioritize nature and social equity over private interests. The fourth strategy basically suggests that biodiversity governance cannot remain top-down. It needs to be inclusive, accountable, adaptive, integrative, and reflexive. And finally, perhaps what is most important is to shift dominant societal views and values to recognize and prioritize human-nature interconnectedness. And all of these can be operationalized, and there is evidence for so. And we found that operationalization of this happens by changing dominant social norms, facilitating transformative learning processes, co-creating new knowledge, and weaving different knowledge systems, worldviews, and values that actually recognize these interdependencies. Remember, transformative change is a system-wide change, and therefore it also requires a whole of society and whole of government approach that engages all actors and sectors who need to work collaboratively. We in fact found evidence for how initiatives that involved a greater number of actors and greater collaborations amongst them actually achieved more positive outcomes for both socioeconomic indicators as well as biodiversity itself. When we wanted to see which were the key figures, of course, governments can be powerful enablers of transformative change by fostering policy coherence, enacting and enforcing stronger regulations, deploying innovative economic and fiscal tools, eliminating, phasing out, or reforming environmentally harmful subsidies, and promoting international cooperation. We further found that well-designed policies and business and private sector initiatives and tools can actually provide economic incentives that can influence socioeconomic development and consumption practices along directions which might be biodiversity benefiting rather than biodiversity harming. Ample examples in the literature which showed that civil society initiatives can indeed be transformative, and perhaps going forward, they need to have more support from us. We also did a global analysis, and we found that social movements have played historically, and they continue to play, a crucial role in challenging drivers of biodiversity loss and fostering transformative change. If I were to just look at India, you would see that there are many social movements which unfortunately have had regressive outcomes, but there are also quite a few which have had outcomes with transformative potential. In fact, one of the cases that we do discuss in detail in the assessment happens to be the Chipko movement, wherein villagers, especially women in Chamoli, they literally hugged the trees in their vicinity to prevent them from being felled by commercial timber merchants. And basically, this is an example of how a worldview That is biodiversity is not just for extraction, but it is a part, and it's inextricably linked with your lives and livelihoods, can actually bring about changes in practices. That is, you are not just a user of biodiversity, but you're also a steward of biodiversity. And finally, it can bring about changes in structures, because there's no dearth of literature wherein environmental historians have analyzed and shown how Chipko movement, alongside all the other social movements that it inspired across the country, was crucial for the enactment of the Forest Conservation Act as well. Finally, perhaps we identified that it is important to have a shared vision for transformation. What might be transformative for me might not be transformative for you, and the ones that are brought about are the ones that we share. And these shared positive visions need to recognize socio-ecological interdependencies, the agency of non-human life forms, and the ethics of care. The results of the assessments are spreading widely, and in fact, I'm using the official slide deck of that was shared by the Technical Support Unit of Transformative Change Assessment. And this is a bit dated because this was shared with us back in January 25. Results have spread much further since. And however much I might try, it is impossible to do justice to an assessment which took 3 years to complete and to summarize it in 10 minutes. So because of which I would really like you to take a look at the summary for policymakers of the Transformative Change Assessment. And while you scan it, I'm also going to give the floor to my fellow Sakshi.
Thank you so much for the wonderful talk on transformative change assessment, Asmita. And good afternoon, everyone. Pradeep and I will talk about 2 opportunities for youth in ECRs to engage with IPBES. I will be talking on IPBES Youth Workshop, and Pradeep will introduce you to the IPBES Fellowship Program. So, from Dr. Mathu's presentation, you must have got an idea what IPBES is and what it does. And though it is more known for its comprehensive reports, IPBES also promotes action, knowledge transfer, and collaboration. Next slide, please. And well, we all know that 1 million species are at risk of extinction and our natural ecosystems are fast degrading. And with that, our well-being is at risk as well. But to ensure a future that is safe, just, sustainable, equitable, and nature positive, we definitely need a transformative change. Because without it, it is a crisis that we are going to handing on to the next generation. But the good news is that young people are not waiting to inherit this problem. They are doing their best to solve it right now. And IPBES is making sure that their voices are getting heard and they are enabled to step up and shape biodiversity policies and conservation efforts. Engaging youth in biodiversity action is not just about participation, it is about leadership. And by integrating young voices into decision making, IPBES is fostering a generation that is informed, proactive, and ready to drive change. Next slide, please. So here the youth workshop comes into the scene. And it is one of the many major activities conducted to fulfill the mandate of capacity building of IPBES. So basically, these workshops are aimed at equipping young people aged 18 to 30 with the knowledge, networks, and skills to contribute meaningfully to IPBES. Whether you are an activist, a researcher, a practitioner, or an innovator already working on biodiversity, you can participate in these youth workshops. And these workshops basically focuses on 4 key areas. Number 1 is building capacity among youth regarding IPBES processes and core concepts like science policy interface, nature futures framework for visioning, and science communication. Number 2 is fostering networks by connecting global youth organizations to amplify their impact. Number 3 is creating pathways to show how to participate actively in IPBES assessments and actions. And number 4 is capturing youth voices to include them in future IPBES processes. So until now, 3 editions of youth workshops have taken place. First workshop happened in Sao Paulo, Brazil in 2019, in which I got to participate. Then second one was in Isle of Wilm, Germany in 2022. And the recent one took place in Windhoek, Namibia in 2024, just before the IPBES plenary, in which as a fellow, I got the opportunity to be in the facilitation team. And these workshops are usually very competitive with spots for just 25 participants from all over the world. And the selection committee makes sure to have a balance in terms of geographical representation, gender, knowledge system, and discipline. Next slide, please. But once you get in there and you are there, it's definitely fun for sure. These are some photographs from the past 3 workshops. And as you can see, they are not just long, tiring sessions where the experts, they just, yap and bore you out. They are mindfully designed to spark conversations, give the participants some food for thought, stimulate creativity, and cause connection for greater action, social programs, interactive sections, and group activities. Next slide, please. And these are some outcomes from the previous 3 youth workshops. In 2019, participants, including me, we published a scientific paper which was based on the outcomes of the visioning exercise, which was done during the workshop. And then from 2022, the participants, they co-created a graphic novel to communicate the outcomes of the workshop. And then last year in 2024, the participants, they got to present their visions at the IPBES 11 Stakeholders Day. Next slide, please. So if I talk about my own experience, definitely it was a transformative experience for me, one that broadened my perspective and really helped me forge new connections. So you not only get to learn from the best, but also get exposed to different cultures and worldviews that come with the participants. And it is also a great opportunity to interact face-to-face with experts who have been involved in IPBES assessments as experts and fellows. And I wholeheartedly encourage you all to participate whenever you have the opportunity. So on this note, I will now conclude my talk and invite Pradeep to take the floor and share insights about the IPBES Fellowship. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thanks a lot, Sakshi, for giving a brief about the workshop. So in continuation, I will be precisely talking about So can you please move to the next slide, Asmita? Thank you. So I will be precisely talking about the fellowship program that IPBES brings. So the only difference between the youth workshop and the fellowship program, as Sakshi mentioned, so is about the 5 years more age people can apply for the fellowship. So the age foundation is 35 years. So the main aim of this IPBES fellowship program is to absolutely, again, building the capacities along with giving an opportunity to work for the fellows to work across the assessments. So all kind of assessments, global, regional, or thematic, and even the task force. So most of us fellows are from the assessments, like Sakshi is a fellow from the task force. So yeah, there are different opportunities for fellows to associate within the IPBES assessments, and overall it gives a hands-on experience to be part of assessment, to work with the different leading experts on biodiversity, conservation, ecosystem services. And at the same time, we also get an opportunity to get recognized while working with the leading experts. So overall, I will also try to, for those who have a passion for biodiversity or related areas, so we as a fellow highly recommend each one of you to apply for this fellowship program. And it overall gives a unique transformative experience that will equip you to make some real impact in real time. So yeah, next slide, please. So coming to the fellowship program, so typically the fellowship program runs for 2 to 3 years and aligned with the duration of the assessments. So like for a Nexus and Transformative Change assessment that run parallel, so it was for 3 years. So we were engaged as a fellow for 3 years, and the entire program is designed for people like early career individuals or researchers who generally either like doing PhD, pursuing their PhD, or within 5 to 7 years of having completed their degrees and fall under the age group of 35. So they are eligible to apply for these fellowship programs. And the most enticing part of this fellowship program is like what we call in the Nexus assessment was a 3-loop learning approach. So for the first is like we learn while working alongside the other fellows within our own assessment as well as in the sister assessment that run parallelly. At the same time, we also get a chance to learn from and work in collaboration with the lead author, coordinating lead author, and also co-chairs of that particular assessments. And lastly, the IPBES provide a mentorship program for fellows. So the fellows can choose senior experts that are in the part of the assessment as their informal mentor, and then to learn more about the processes of the IPBES assessments and how the IPBES assessment has been taken in past and what are the status and trends across the assessment with as the time progresses. So this, especially like for my experience, I chose Professor P.T. Smith as my informal mentor during the Nexus assessment, and reading whose paper I shared my own PhD objectives. So it has been truly a rewarding experience and quite enriching experience for me to get chance to meet Thais in person. And then now we are totally in touch always, as and when I required I can reach. So, and it is a pro-funded program. So generally for developing nations, IPBES is funding entirely for all the, sorry, all the trip that we do. And even after the assessment is over, so we as a fellow remain connected through alumni network. So as of now, like by last year, we have over 380 fellows, out of which, so sorry, I'm missing the number. So in the next, in the subsequent slide, there will be the exact number of the fellows. Now we have in alumni network. So, but eight fellows are currently from India. So we remain connected, and not just connected. So overall, representing like India at a world stage itself is a matter of huge pride. And only thing that IPBES expect from us is to dedicate 10 to 15% of our time from our mainstream work. But this is compensated with the truly incredible, rewarding experiences that we gain over the years. So yeah, and the pictures, as you can see, is of us fellows. Like especially the last one, if you see, is we are standing in the UN headquarters in Nairobi. The middle one is from the Bonn, the IPBES Secretariat in Bonn, and the first one is from the IGES international organization based in Japan. So where we get a chance to meet not only the fellows within our assessment, but also the sister assessment that run in parallel, and the past assessment, where we get to meet a lot of peers and also the experts who are leading in this area of biodiversity, ecosystem services, conservation, and associated areas. Next slide, please. So briefly, I will be telling about the application process. So this flow diagram overall just give a glimpse like what is the exactly step. So if you wanted to be the part of IPBES as a fellow, so first thing that you need to do is create your own ID through the web portal at the IPBES website, and keep an eye for any upcoming call for fellows for any new assessments. And the most important thing is you need to choose a nominee for applying for these fellowship programs. So generally what options IPBES gives is either we can choose the national focal point, or we can choose the head of the organization where we are based to get nominations. And once we have filled our application and attached our CV, so a nominees will receive the confirmation of submission of our application. And then once they confirm, so this is the overall process briefly how to apply for this fellowship program. But to know it more, you can just refer to the below given website. And also we are also very happy, we would be very happy to help, like if there is any question or queries from any one of you. So our email IDs are in the very end, you can see, and just reach out. So next slide, please. So let me just briefly explain about my experience. So I began, my engagement with IPBES began being an external reviewer for first global biodiversity assessment that extended between the period 2014 to 2018, while I was doing my own PhD. And then while I was finishing my PhD, I got selected for fellow. So it was like, it gave me a feeling like to enter into entirely new world, as you can see from the picture. Like Sakshi also mentioned about getting an opportunity to go in different landscapes across different leading institutions in the globe. So we get multiple opportunities, like in part of Nexus, we get 5 to 6 international fully funded trips to one of the some of the leading landscapes and global biodiversity hotspots. As you can see, like last year we visited Japan, where we get to see the Satoyama landscape, which is well known for the interface of landscape and seascape. And we also were invited by UNDP to the UN headquarters in Nairobi, where we get a chance to meet experts from biodiversity, also experts on indigenous knowledge systems and ecosystem services and so on. And so of all the memories, range of memories, that good memories that we have, I would particularly like to mention attending the IPBES 9th plenary session in the Bonn in IPBES Secretariat back in 2022 in Bonn. So it was like I first time witnessed like how science informs policies through the intergovernmental negotiations, and what are the stands of respective countries on these important topics like biodiversity, conservation, and ecosystem services. So that was the most unique experience as a fellow of this particular assessment. Next slide, please. So, okay, so in the last slide was the pictures from the fellows workshop that we attended, where we were supported greatly and incredibly by the technical support unit from the IPBES. While apart from that, that was a huge capacity building thing that we experienced during the course of the assessment. Apart from that, we have attended several online meetings, and we also get chance to attend some in-person authors meeting in the well-known biodiversity hotspots like Kruger National Park in South Africa. We visited, and also we visited in the Kathmandu, Nepal, in International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. So overall, working with such a diverse group of people from different countries, exchanging knowledge and about the food, culture, and a lot of different things. So I would like to let you know, like, it is not just for us an opportunity for building our career or growing academically, but it is often it is more related to building a lifelong connections that that is the real essence of being a fellow of the assessments. So we get a chance to interact with lead author, coordinating lead author, co-chair, and everyone is available for each one of us. So that's the main USP of this program. And then our capacity building is developed, like we also at times represent and give updates of a chapter. So we, being a youngest part of the chapter, still we are being given chance and opportunities. So this itself are a means to build our capacities. Next slide, please. So in the concluding slide, so overall, so it's all benefits and opportunities about the IPBES, except the time constraint that we have to manage. Because most of the time we are always applying for the fellowship program when either we are in our end phase of PhDs or we are transitioning, looking for new jobs or things. So time management is one thing which I felt, but otherwise it's all it's a benefit opportunity. We build a great and huge network with leading experts. We get to strengthen our own capacities. We got a lot of support from technical units, support units, capacity TSUs, and not only TSUs, but also the CLAs and LAs of the assessments. Even after the assessment is over, we have an alumni network where we can coordinate across all the like geographical boundaries and any kind of boundaries. We can just across all those, we can coordinate and collaborate in our works. We can share our experiences, how we are doing in life, and then how we are doing in our professional as well as personal things. So these are all actually overall bringing us and giving us an opportunity to develop our social and professional network. So by means of attending plenary, workshop, authors meeting, overall we build a capacity. And as a fellow, after the assessment is over, the same fellows also get an opportunity to be a lead author or maybe sometime contributing author, like I am the contributing author for ongoing assessment, business and biodiversity assessment. So and then fellows that have also turned out to become the coordinating lead authors or even the part of multidisciplinary expert panel. So not only this, as you can see here in the map, so yeah, this is the number 138 fellows so far as of last year, September 24. So out of these 138 fellows, 8 fellows are from India, and then out of 8, 5 are here today. So maybe in upcoming webinars, the 3 more will be definitely joining us. So for giving their insights. And you can see the balance in gender. So 58% is women and 42% is men. So this overall keeping all kinds of balances, be it a gender, be it region, geography, everything. So what other benefits is like we can also, as a fellow, we can contribute globally by means of like IPBES has a Nature Insight podcast, or we can become a part of these networks of IPBES. Like there is a Social Science and Humanity Network, we call it SSS network, and the other is ONET, which is open-ended network for stakeholders, which the facilitation team member. I was also serving as a facilitation team member. So in a way, we try to build the opening statement that is being presented during the stakeholder day, which is held one day before each plenary each year in the IPBES. So apart from this, we can also contribute, collaborate and contribute in terms of doing a joint publication. So one of the publication screenshot I just pasted here of Ranjini, and so you can see these these are all fellows from same assessment who have done the publication after the assessment is over. Apart from these, once the assessment is over, as Dr. Mathur has initially mentioned, we can do uptake activities in our own countries. So like IPCC is very well known to like most of the people, but IPBES still needs to expand itself a little bit more. So in that direction, we are making some effort. Thanks to ATREE, thanks to Asmita for taking lead in this. Apart from this, also one of the fellows I would especially like to mention are also serving on some have achieved remarkable milestone. Dr. Sonali Ghosh, so who has been assigned as became the first field director, first a woman field director in Kaziranga National Park in Assam. So this is one of the exemplary achievement of the fellow. So this indicates what being a fellow means, and how quickly one can develop their careers and grow in their career or build their professional networks. So yeah, next slide, please. So with this, I would like to thanks for all your patience hearing. And as I mentioned earlier, so because it's a very small time and briefly to tell, as Asmita mentioned, to share these experiences, vast experiences that we have experienced in just short time wouldn't be possible. So maybe you all can reach out. So email ID of each of us is mentioned here. So as and when you feel, just reach out and with your queries, and we will be very happy to help you out as per our time convenience. So yeah, with this, I would like to thanks for your patience, hearing and attention. And thanks to ATREE for providing this unique platform to share our views. So thank you.
Thank you,
Over to
Pradeep.
you, Latha.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. So as he mentioned, you can of course write to us, but the floor is also open for questions. So those of you who are online, I would urge you to please type your questions. And if you are here, then I would be more than happy to bring a mic to you. If there are any questions here?
Thanks. Thanks to all the fellows for a lovely presentation. In the assessments, there are case studies mentioned. So on what criteria are these case studies determined and selected?
Okay, I was hoping Murli is going to answer, but since this was my assessment, I think I'm the best suited person for this. So basically, we had this questionnaire survey wherein we sent it out to all the experts, including lead authors, coordinating lead authors, and contributing authors. And we basically asked them to give an example of what they think has been a case of transformation or transformative potential. And there were a set of questions that guided it, and also a set of questions which kind of tried to elicit why they thought it was transformative and how transformation was brought about. So thank you very much to those who are online and to those who are here as well. Thank you very much.